Hey, if I could have everyone's attention, please, as we're getting organized for this income tax subcommittee meeting and Ways and Means Committee, could I have your attention, please? There is a sign-up sheet if anyone wants to sign up to speak to either one of the measures before us today. It's on the third desk down right there on the edge.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, just give us 1 second.
I don't think it's.
Is it on?
Hello. All right, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have extremely capable folks subbing today, but we happen to have some illness that has hit Alex and has hit Christy over in Ledge Council, and also David. We say a quick prayer for him because he's dealing with a family matter. So if we seem a little bit uncertain or disorganized, it may be because we are, and we'll do our best to recover and move forward. But if you'll just have indulge us a little bit considering all of that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Blackman. Which microphone? So Chairman Jaspers, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here to present House Bill 403. I believe you have the appropriate bill in your folder. Thank you for letting me talk the other day. Being for the first time in front of Ways and Means kind of made us sit and take a revisit how we were presenting our bill. Hope you'll see we improved a whole lot today and make our case a lot better. But we do have the opportunity with this bill to save Georgia's money. That's by creating a tax credit for the installation of geothermal technology to heat and cool homes. And I think you'll see in the handouts that my associate Tucker Green has that's in your folder, the savings that are there, and it'll be really good to look at with him in just a few minutes. Geothermal is what it is, exactly what it says. It uses the Earth's consistent temperature to operate a system that utilizes that temperature in the heat exchanger technology. Most all of us use heat exchangers now with the heat pumps. They use air to harvest heat in the wintertime and cool in the summer, but they have limits. And when it gets extreme cold or extreme heat, they don't work, and they have to use additional electricity. And they buy that at peak from Georgia Power and EMCs. And that is what's hurting us. This opportunity will allow us to have families save significantly on their energy bills, all the while leveling out their annual power utility demand in our state. Geothermal heat pumps can save up to 70% on heating, cooling, and believe it or not, also hot water. What the bill does is allow for a 25% state income tax credit on the installation expenses for a residential geothermal system. The credit shall be applied over a 5-year period and not exceed $5,000 for any taxable year. Also, the bill does contain a 5-year sunset. This one is very good for Georgia. It helps working families, homeowners lower their energy costs and puts more money back in their pockets. It grows jobs in our state and positively impacts the HVAC, water well, and the loop contracting business. Because geothermal does require the work of 2 to 3 times more people. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, that it's time for Georgians to join this and do the same. I also have Mr. Tucker Green with me that can go over the handout on the financial side of it, if I can.
Would you like to bring Mr. Green up?
Yes, sir, please.
Mr. Green, again, just introduce yourself and tell us all who you're with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Tucker Green, and I represent the Conditioned Air Association of Georgia, as well as the Georgia Association of Groundwater Professionals, and appreciate the opportunity to bring this really neat technology before you, and that's what it is. Geothermal is great technology, and it's great investments for Georgia families. It's the most energy efficient way you can heat or cool your home. The life expectancy on geothermal systems is 2 to 3 times the life expectancy of a traditional AC unit. So it is a very much worthwhile investment. There's some breakdowns in your folders, I believe, and what you can see from there is on average, with a geothermal system, you can save between about $82 and $106 a month for a Georgia family on their energy bill. That also translates to about 600 to 700 kilowatt hours a year they reduce when they're on a geothermal system, which is good overall, we believe, for our electrical grid. Why we're here, and that is because while this is great technology, there's a lot of investment that goes into these installations, and there's a reason for that. It takes about 2 to 3 times the amount of labor and workforce involved installing a geothermal system over a traditional AC system. So it's a significant investment up front. A lot of different groups have tried to find ways to incentivize these systems, and that is our goal overall. We want to be able to make it to where more lower and middle income families who really need the savings on their energy bills with rising inflations and things of that nature, we want them to be able to utilize this technology to save on their energy bill and help out their families. So happy to provide any feedback or answer any questions you have. We tried to break down the energy savings data we have, as well as cost comparisons of the different geothermal systems. So.
I'll recognize Chairman Martin, who has a question.
Actually, my question, Mr. Chairman, is for our attorney. If I can just ask him if we can, just want to make sure we're not cutting them off. And I apologize for not remembering exactly what this. But on 42 and 43, we repeal this code section. We don't just sunset the.
Speaking of the microphone, please. I can't.
I'm sorry. I thought I was. Mr. Haley, on 42 and 43, we repeal this code section. I just want to make sure that by doing so, if somebody did this in October 2029 and they have the credit to go forward for 5 years, that they'd still be able to use it. That's just sort of the technical language. I know we're not, without extending this sunset, you wouldn't be able to get it in 2030. I just want to make sure the folks that get it in 2029, since the code section is repealed, it doesn't recognize, I don't know what that action of law means, to make sure it doesn't, that the credit's still recognized. Mr. Chairman, if we're not sure about that today, if the will of the committee is to move forward, if we find out we need to.
Y'all had a chance to review the question. Did you hear the question? You can. Sure. All right. That's just the board.
Mr. Chairman, if it's something, if this is the only thing we've got, I'd be happy to get with the attorney after the meeting and make sure we have it right for the folks.
You asked a good question, so a taxpayer that if this measure were to pass and become law, and a taxpayer in the final year of before sunset,
or 4 subsequent years.
Yeah, will the earned credit be carried forward over the life like it would in year 1? It's a good question, and we'll let the Ledge Council attempt to answer it. Recognize Chairman Kemp. He's got a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Isn't that question answered starting on line 39, where it says, except for as provided in some section of this code section, no amount of the tax credit shall be allowed to be carried forward to apply to the taxpayer succeeding year's tax liability? Am I misreading that?
December 29th, the entire code section is repealed, therefore it doesn't exist anymore. So that language wouldn't exist in 2030. My question is, what one does? with a credit earned in 2029 if you have $20,000 of it left over. That means you can't carry it past 5 years. If you only, you've got $25,000 credit and you only had $20,000 worth of tax the first 5 years, you just lose 5,000. I understand what that does, but just by operation of law, if the code section is repealed, I just don't know what happens to existing credits. We just don't. Something without credit. So we're not.
I think you had another question or two.
Well, Chairman Blackman's gonna clarify the
sir.
question to Legislative Council where we did get an answer on that. Good question, Chairman Martin. Next, I recognize Chairman Dickey for a question.
Thank you. And along the lines of Chairman Martin, I mean, we have let council here, with us here, and I was just wondering why they're not able to offer a amendment here in committee, to fix this problem. So I hope we'll have time with them to get some advice here.
Sure. To Chairman Dickey's point, we gotta, let's make sure we have a problem before we fix it, but that's a good suggestion. In the meantime, do we have any more questions in general for the author of the bill or Mr. Green, who's prepared the exhibit showing the utility tax savings should one of these systems go in? Any other questions from members? Well, okay. Recognize Chairman Carson for a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Green, for bringing this. I was just going to ask a question from the homeowner standpoint. What is the payback, the on average payback time via the decreased utility cost versus the investment? What is the average payback time with this tax credit and without this tax credit?
So great question. Our projection from our manufacturers is a return on investment in about 5 years, I would say, with the credit. Without the credit, you may be looking at more along the lines of 8 to 10 years. Hope that answers your question.
Chairman Weedower, did you have a question?
Not a question, just appreciate the bill. I know Chairman Martin's working on some language to satisfy the thing, but proper time, I'll make a motion with an accepted amendment to satisfy that.
Thank you. Give us 1 minute then. All right.
Mr. Chairman, the Legislative Council advises that they believe that the credit would survive the repeal of the code section. But I think the quote is, it could be made clearer. So we have an opportunity to do that down the road. I don't want to slow the gentleman's proposition down. And we know we can get, so if it wants to move.
All right. So we do have the Department of Revenue here that maybe they could clarify what mic are you at? Is that 74?
Just press the buttons, press the revenue.
Austin, can you weigh in on that?
Yeah, just press the button.
Yeah,
All right.
you're good.
See if it works.
Okay, this is my first time using this. Chester and I believe in looking at the bill that the carry forward would still be honored after the sunset. Is that your interpretation? Yes.
All right. Thank you for the Department of Revenue's clarification on that. Should have gone to you first. All right. Now I recognize Chairman Weedower.
Make a motion to pass.
Motion is second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, what's the will of the committee? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Congratulations, Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Next, we're gonna move on to House Bill 1167. Representative Townsend, would like to come present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to follow up from the previous day, answered quite a few questions in. This is an income tax credit, of course, to help innovative projects in public schools, charter schools, especially college and career academies. This is where it can be a game changer for innovative projects. I made some examples last time how Golden Isles and Albany have already taken advantage of it, and quite a few other people are and intend to in the future. And there are quite a few people lined up, manufacturers and people now that are willing to make a commitment to get to the next step and really utilizing these tax credits. So this is good for the students and really community overall and workforce development, Mr. Chair.
Just read the LC number. Let's just make sure for the record, we're all.
Yes, sir. It's HB 1167 LC 5007440S.
Any questions from members of the committee? Any questions for the author about the measure and what it does?
I believe Chairman Blackman, did you want to?
Run the meeting.
I'm sorry.
I recognize Chairman Carson. All right,
Okay, I
wait,
apologize.
Chairman Carson Mays. Yeah, all right. Okay. Wait, recognize Chairman Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Representative Townsend is alluding to the fact that he and I discussed a brief amendment. We can do that at the proper time, Mr. Chairman, but since we're unsure as to what will the expected amount would be over and above 5 million, that will start instead of at 20 million, start at 10 million for those subsequent years.
All right, so do I have a entertain a motion on the overarching bill? Got that motion in a second. Now be the proper time to for amendment to that.
If I'm recognized for that, I'd move that on line 71, we replace the 2 with a 1. Mr. Chairman.
71, we're reducing it from 20 million to 10 million. That's a committee substitute offered by Chairman Blackman. Do I hear a second? I've got a motion and a second. All in favor of amending it from 20 million to 10 million, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Now we'll vote the bill as amended. Reducing the max from 20 million to 10 million. So is all in favor as amended, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations, Representative Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good bill.
Thank you,
Thanks so
committee.
much. That's all that's coming before the Income Tax Subcommittee today. And so this subcommittee stands adjourned.
Okay, we're getting out the information for the ad valorem tax.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're welcome to. Yeah, come on.
Okay, first, if we could have Chair Lady Camp, we're gonna talk about House Bill 1185. Chair Lady, which one do you want to talk about first? 1185 or HR 1022?
Let's see, HR 1022, bear with me. Because it is actually the constitutional amendment, or do you want to talk about the enabling legislation first?
I think I'd rather talk about the amendment first and then the enabling.
Okay. All right, awesome. All right, so thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. We're looking at House Resolution 1022, which is LC 442635. And this is a constitutional amendment that will provide for a base year. We're looking on the enabling legislation. It talks about 2024 being the base year and giving counties and school boards and cities an opportunity to opt in or opt out, so to speak. And they will also have the ability to make the decision if they want to use consumer price index or some other level to raise or reduce the value of the property going forward. But this is a constitutional amendment. It will have to be voted upon by the good people of the state of Georgia to move forward.
Thank you, Chair Lady. And this would be a constitutional amendment on the ballot this fall. Correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Any members have any questions? Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
Step
Chairman
out for a
Martin.
moment. I appreciate the lady's proposition. What I want to make sure of in reading the measure is that we are not stepping on current floating exemptions that exist. That they could be replaced with this language. That I'm sorry, I have to get to the.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're referring to HB 1185, which I think right now we're still working on the resolution, so apologize.
I'll apologize.
We're on
That's why I
the,
just stepped-
understood,
stepped
and it's a
away.
valid question. We're on the amendment as
Yep.
of right now. Any questions for the author on HR 1022? Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee? We have a motion to pass and a second. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Measure passes. Okay, let's go now to House Bill 1185. Chair Lady?
Thank you. And there is a substitute that was offered this morning. It's LC 442722. S is in Sam. I'd like to thank Legislative Council most certainly for being so expedient on this as we were working on a deadline. This, again, is the enabling legislation. This would allow counties, cities, and school boards to have the ability to basically freeze a floating homestead, if you will, the property assessments in their judicial, their areas that they cover. And they could use consumer price index as an inflation rate if they choose. Once again, they may, it's not, they must, they may use that if they want to use that as a way to increase the values of the properties at a rate that would be equivalent for everyone in the state. Additionally, my understanding is, Chairman Martin, that it does not impact any other standing homesteads. The homesteads exist in conjunction with this floating homestead, not in lieu of. So if a county decided to opt in at some point in time, this bill does not give them a measure to opt out. So this would be the law until something else changed.
Chairman Martin?
I draw the committee's attention to line 93, 94, and 95 specifically says the homestead exemption granted in subsection B, which is this bill, shall be in lieu of and not in addition to any adjusted base year base year value homestead exemption provided by local act. So I mean, I read those 3 lines to say that the Fulton County government could enact this legislation and wipe out freezes from 2018 and reestablish base values at 2025, and that's problematic. Again, I don't want to hurt the lady's proposition for those that do not currently have floating homesteads, but if the county could do that on their own, it would be to their advantage and the detriment of the taxpayer to do. I mean, it specifically says shall be in lieu of and not in addition to, and it's specific also says 95 provided by local act. So I just want to make sure this doesn't step on local act.
Understood. We have another question. Chairman Stevens.
Lady, to yield.
Yes, I
Isn't it
yield.
true that to do that, the county, school board or city would have to place that on a ballot with a full knowledge that it would replace a lower exemption? So the public, isn't it true, is going to be protected in that regard?
Thank you very much. That is my understanding. We do have legislative counsel here if someone wants to weigh in on that from their office, but that is my understanding, Chairman Stevens.
To go
Chairman
with
Martin.
that, it's my experience, most homestead exemptions pass. It's just, if you put another homestead exemption out there, people vote for it. They don't look at, will this be better for me or worse for me? So I'm still, I still would like to see us do the bill. So if you have a floating homestead exemption, you couldn't enact this one over the top of it. I mean, I just think there's a place where we should be protective of the local act, not stepping in on it.
And I fully support you in that, Chairman Martin, most certainly,
I
because we
believe
don't
the
want to
audience.
take anything away from the homeowners, especially legislation that they've already voted upon.
So we're going to recognize legislative counsel real quick. What number?
Already there.
Paul? Try that.
That's it. Thank you, Chairman. So, Chairman, members of the committee, lines 90 through 95 start by saying, except as otherwise provided in paragraph 2 of this
You can talk
subsection.
into the microphone.
I'm sorry. Oh, you can't hear me. Okay. No, I'm good. Except as otherwise provided in paragraph 2 of this subsection, the homestead exemption granted by subsection B shall be in addition to and not in lieu of any other homestead exemption applicable to ad valorem taxes. So for instance, if the local government already had a homestead exemption in place for people age 60 or over, this would be in addition to that. But then paragraph 2 goes on to say, the homestead exemption granted in this code section shall be in lieu of and not in addition to any other base year exemption provided by a local act. The idea being that if the local government opts to take advantage of this base year exemption, the local base year goes away. It replaces that. But any other type of homestead exemption, it would be in addition to that. It wouldn't make it go away.
Base values. I'm sorry. That's exactly what I worry about. I do not want, Fulton County, for instance, has a base year set at Fulton County government level, I think for 2006. I don't wish to reset those base years. The Fulton County Board of Education, all the cities in Fulton County, or most of the cities in Fulton County, all the ones in North Fulton have base years that are 2016 through 2018. I don't want to allow a local government to enact a homestead here and do away with the previous one. And I understand Chairman Stevens, he's right that people could vote against it, but my experience is most people see a homestead exemption on the ballot. They think that's good for me and they vote for it. I to some extent want to help us protect the citizens from, perhaps some confusing ballot questions. And I think that's an easy fix, that if one of these exists by local act, then you can't do this one
Understood.
until you repeal the local act exemption.
I'm going to recognize the chair. Chairman Blackman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Martin, if it's acceptable to you and to the author, Chair Lady Camp, if perhaps y'all could get together and work out some language. We have full committee in the morning, and rather than vote this out as is, we'll get the language, if y'all are in agreement, corrected, and we'll look at it in full committee in the morning if that works for you.
I agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you very
No,
much.
definitely. We want it to be right. So thank you.
Okay, next up. House Bill 1069 is Chase. Yes, Representative Cannon.
Appreciate the chance to present this bill. You know, it's a unique opportunity for me to be here, so thank you. LC 500692, very simple bill, department bill for the Georgia Forestry Commission. Basic purpose is to provide the State Forestry Commission with timber harvest tax records that are reported to the county on PT 283T form, otherwise known as a report of timber sale or harvest. Currently, the Forestry Commission does not have access to these records, and it would allow disclosure to the Forestry Commission to ensure that the harvesting provided to the tax assessor actually meets the harvesting provided to the landowner. That's pretty much it, and very simple bill. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Pretty straightforward bill. Members, any questions in regard to House Bill 1069 for the author? I got a move to pass. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, appreciate it.
Okay. House Bill 808. Yeah, and which one was the?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'd like to bring before you House Bill 808. It's a substitute, and the LC is 442690S. We all know that property tax is the levy on property that an owner is required to pay.
Chairman, can we hold on one second? I want to make sure we're on the right LC number.
I'm sorry.
Chairman?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Wait,
I think it's 442725S, and it's, per our discussions. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for that correction. Thank you. Cool.
Just to be clear, Chairman Chokas, we're working on LC 442725S, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, please.
That is correct. As I was saying, we're talking about property tax, and it is levied on real property, which is land and improvements, and a major source of revenue for local governments. TPP tax, on the other hand, is a specific type of property tax that applies to personal property, which is movable and tangible. Unlike real property, which is generally levied against real estate, TPP taxes are levied on the physical assets businesses purchase and pay sales tax on at the time of purchase. TPP taxes are levied on movable items that are used in the operation of a business. And it is also the number one tax most complained about by small businesses. These taxes require detailed record keeping, extensive reporting, and can be particularly burdensome to small businesses. Currently, Georgia, there is a threshold for businesses that are exempt, and that threshold is an antiquated number of $7,500. LC 442725S brings that threshold up from 7,500 to $20,000. And that's simply that's the bill. And I would like to yield for questions and the wisdom of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Newton.
I just want to say thank you for this bill. I think it's a much needed relief to small businesses, and that nearly tripling of the 7,500, while it's not as much as some people would like, it's more than others. It's a lot of what we have to do around here. I appreciate you bringing the bill. I'd like to move due pass, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time.
Okay, that is duly noted.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions for the author? We did have one speaker, or excuse me, one person to speak to the bill, Clint Mueller, if you could come on up. Okay. Hit your button. Go ahead, sir. Try again. Try the one next to you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Clint Mueller with ACCG. There's a little bit of our attorneys. We haven't seen the new sub, so maybe it's been addressed, but the last version we saw the utility personal property. So all the stuff that's centrally assessed at the Department of Revenue, which is railroad, cars, all the utilities. Our attorneys read it as this bill is including that. I know that's not the author's intent. We just want to make sure that this is not including that type of personal property, because that's a lot. That would be about $13 billion worth of valuation on our digest if that were to be included. So we just want to go on record to saying we want to make sure this does not include the centrally assessed property. And then we also think that business inventory that's already covered under the Freeport 2 exemption should not be included, because there's already a mechanism to exempt that property. So again, the author's original intent was to look at the personal property of the business, and we just want to make sure it doesn't go beyond that intent. Thank you.
Thank you. The author wish to respond?
Yeah, yes, sir. To my knowledge, and we can check with legislative counsel, that is not part of this proposition. And then, as I said earlier, we're going from $7,500 to $20,000. And I imagine one railroad car or utility is worth a lot more than that. So we're just inching it up a little bit.
Any other questions for the author? I have a motion to pass from Chairman Newton. I have a second from Chairman Blackman. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's all we have. All right, that's all our bills. We are adjourned.
hit a couple of highlights.
Okay. We'll do that first.
We won't have a vote.
Okay. We're gonna go next to the sales tax subcommittee of Ways and Means, if we could settle in for that. We have two items today. Neither one of them will be available for action by the subcommittee. House Bill 1115 and House Bill 1225 is the agenda for SUT. Without objection, we'll move forward. When everybody gets in or out, let's close the door back there just so we can hear a little bit better. At this time, I would call on Representative Williams for, what number are you down there? 83. Wow. I don't have an 83. We run out at 82 here, so press a button.
Well, that's what it says.
Speaking to the mic.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Tell us about the process, HB 1115.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have HB 1115, which was, we had a proposed amendment to the sub of LC 500748S. We're still working out all the details. We have a lot going on, but we do have someone here today from the DOR that we wanted to discuss what happens if the tax digest is not approved. We were talking about a flexible penny and an extra penny in sales tax, and that's what our committee worked on. And until we get something clarified, we really don't want to get too much in the specifics, but we did want the DOR to speak to it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gibbons.
Chairman Martin, Chairman Williams, we've got, I believe, Kenny Colson, who is our Assistant Director of Tax Oversight. He's online. He's down on the Georgia-Florida line and is our property tax expert, but understandably couldn't make it up from the Georgia-Florida line in 2 hours' notice.
Are you with us remotely?
Yes, sir, I am.
Computer audio. Are you with us remotely?
Yes, sir.
There you go. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, sir. I think the issue or the question was, upon a county's digest not being approved, what would happen with this? Just wanted the point I wanted to make was before any county or school can mail out property tax bills, they have to get what is called a bill and collection order from the Revenue Commissioner, and that's through our division, Local Government Services. And it only governs the county and school taxes. Municipal taxes, those rollback rates, the sales tax rollback stuff, they're under the same taxpayers' Bill of Rights obligation. However, Department of Revenue does not check that, upon digest submission. We would uphold the approval of a digest, a bill and collection order on the county and school to ensure that they do the proper rollback, the proper millage rate rollback of the sales tax.
Thank you, sir. So, Chairman Blackman, did you have what number are you there?
I don't want to, I'm for it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the gentleman, what he related to us? That was how they basically can ascertain and approve that requirements of this bill are met, and they can hold the billing and therefore hold the ad valorem tax collections of folks other than cities, other than municipalities. I think that was something that was important. So we have that, and we wanted to spread that for information and for discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct.
So are there any members have any questions about that? The additional amendment? Again, we're not in a position. We're going to try to move this today. We'll try to put it together because we're a little bit short staffed, but we wanted to expose that to the public and to the subcommittee members for future action. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was just going to add to Chairman Williams, just a brief overview of what we're trying to capture here. I know there have been a few questions, but in a perfect world, it's the status quo with a flexible penny for those that have not maxed out. And that's as short an answer as I can give you, but it would provide for a property tax rollback. And that is what we're trying to establish, some extra language that would ensure if there wasn't a rollback commensurate with the amount of money coming in from the sales tax, the penny, then it would, have some sort of a stick there to make sure that that's adhered to. So that's all I've got, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to kind of add that. Is that fair?
That's perfect. I know in the legislature, we like to call these guardrails, if you will. But yes, Mr. Chairman, that's exactly right.
Thank you. Any further questions of the gentleman? You have the amendment. I guess our intention, Chairman Blackman, is to roll that amendment into this,
And we'll take
and create a new LC number that we'll take up later, but that would be the language that we'll be offering coming forward. So if there are no more questions, Mr. Colson, thank you for joining us. We know you're sitting still somewhere, not driving a car, talking to us on the phone. So, but we appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And if it please the committee, if there's objection to this, I'll slow it down. But since we're not going to take action on this, I'll remain in the chair and call up House Bill 1225. It's a bill I offer today, and Chairman Blackman was good enough to allow me to bring it to again spread information. The basis of this is around here locally in the county in which we sit, there's a lot of angst in negotiating the loss distribution over the past the past 10-year period when the census came out, because Fulton County exists. There's a very small population that's unincorporated. Fulton County, as the loss distribution, as the loss negotiation is now, they basically have the veto power. They have a veto power. So it caused a lot of angst between the cities and the counties, and it depend on who you talk to, they may or may not have gotten to a fair distribution, but it caused a lot of angst. And I feel like our cities and counties, represent the same people to some extent, and we want them to get together. So and there's also places in the state where a city has a small piece of there's maybe only one small city in a county, and they have veto power over the county, because if they were to opt for their population share, they only get a very small percentage of the loss, yet they represent 100% of the incorporated population, which gives them the veto power. So what this bill seeks to do, primarily on page 3 in lines 52 through 64, is to create a situation whereby if a county chooses not to opt in, they would stand in the shoes of the municipality. They basically take absent municipality stance, and they would get their population, pardon me, share of the loss distribution. Likewise, the way this is written, if a city were to represent 100% of the population of the cities, but less than half of the population of the political subdivision, that would be the whole county, and they were trying to, if you will, hold hostage the larger the majority. They would get to participate as an absentee municipality. The idea in the bill is simply to bring everybody to the negotiating table on the same bargaining level, if you will, with the hopes that they would keep that in mind and not hold the other political subdivisions within the county hostage, if you will, in this negotiation. So that's what the bill is in response to, and what I hope it will create. By the way, there's nothing in this bill that gets in the way of the current negotiating process. So my hope would be, if we pass this bill and everybody's negotiating from an equal spot, that counties and cities would get together and do the right thing for their cities, and the absent political subdivision language put in this bill would never actually kick in, because people would get together and do the right things. But I wanted to sound that out. I've also talked to some folks that there could be some flexibility that we may look for in how counties can use that rollback percentage just in the special service district, because that's what the loss was meant for. I mean, the part that goes to cities now is being spread to reduce taxes in the cities. Arguably, the part the county keeps should be used just to reduce millage in the, what we used to refer to as SSD, Special Service District within a county. But there was some case law in the seventies in Georgia that required that to be spread across the entire county. So we may be able to fix two issues with one piece of legislation here. So with that, I would take any questions or from the committee or from the audience. But no, this is, the idea is to create a fairer system so that our counties and cities could work together for the best interest of the people they represent. Any questions? This first hearing on this. If there aren't questions today, if you have them, overnight or over the weekend, please reach out to me, and we're just trying to make the process easier for our elected officials around the state so they can continue to represent the good people of Georgia. Any questions? Wow, people must be ready to go home. I see no further questions. Do we have another meeting? And so with that, we complete our sales tax subcommittee and move on to move on to public finance. So without objection, we'll stand adjourned for sales tax subcommittee. No objection, we are adjourned.
We'll bring to order the Public Policy and Finance Committee, and we will start with Chairman Newton on House Bill 1090.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I do bring for you the committee substitute to House Bill 1090 LC 500757S is the version we're working off of. Once again, as everyone knows, the challenge in Georgia, both how this body has tried to encourage adoption and foster care for children for so many reasons to make a difference in the lives of these children, the trajectory of their life, their ability to grow and have families. We found out that a good bit of that can happen after they turn 18 and are no longer eligible for direct state involvement. The Fostering Success Act of a couple of years ago began a process to allow not-for-profit services to assist these children in those critical years, as we all know, that have raised children from 18 to 21, both with the finances they may need, the nutritional support, transportation, so many other things that they need. So that's what the Fostering Success Act was. Today's HB 1090 is an effort to clear up some things in that bill once it's been through it for about a year. We did not meet the cap that was approved on the previous legislation of 20 million. So we do, in this bill, we look for ways we can clean up the language that allow what individuals that are clearly in need and not being taken care of by either an adoptive family or other means. We want to open up the tax credit portion so that it's acceptable for other businesses that may not pay income taxes, but in this case, for example, may pay premium taxes or other types of taxes. And then we want to make sure there's guardrails around that spending to be sure that when we, through a tax credit, we encourage those to donate portion of their tax obligation, that money will be going to the children themselves and not necessarily to overhead or any other expenses for other programs in this particular legislation. So that's what House Bill 1090 does. I will tell you in the substitute, we cleared up, if you'll look with me on page 2, in particular lines 24 and following to really all the way down to 33. We have some definitions of some of the highest need individuals in the foster care program defined there in those lines up to line 30, including homelessness, even if they're adopted after a teenager, we know that those are some high risk children. Then finally, if you get down to line 33, you see justice involved youth. That's a small group of some of our justice involved youth. If you look at the definition, and it makes it clear that they are individuals most likely to be able to benefit from a program like this, that they have not been in a secure setting. They've been able to be housed in a non-secure setting, but similar to foster children, they're still under state assistance and guidance. So when they age out, this also allows them to have the mentorship programs that are needed and to have the support that's needed. If you look on line 34, the business enterprise is the definition that we've added to allow entities that may not owe income tax, but do owe a good bit of taxes to the state to use a portion of their income tax obligation to donate to worthy qualified organizations that are doing this excellent work. If we go on through, you can look on line 57, a little more clearly define the mentorship that we're looking for. We want these programs to be actually intently involved in the lives of these young men and women that are, officially legally adults, but not necessarily fully adults. So we want to make sure that the mentors are there for them, along with all the necessary life skills and life needs that are there. You do look on line 77 and following. We want to make sure that there's that the compensation is appropriate. It's enough, but not in any way inappropriate. I believe that's the gist of the bill. We do have some language later in this bill that has to deal with when the Department of Revenue manages a program, for example, to make sure the caps are met, or if they're not met, that they're handled appropriately, whether it's proration or whether it's just keeping up with the fact that on our behalf they've reached a cap. Well, now that we have income taxes with the Department of Revenue and insurance premium taxes that might go to the Department of Insurance, we included language to make sure that those two entities could legally share information. So if an entity was to donate to a qualified organization doing this work, that it would be properly handled, and it would be able to be audited. That's what some language to allow Department of Revenue to share information, not just with the taxpayers, which is their normal restriction, but in this particular very distinct case, that they, with permission, they would share the information with the Department of Insurance, who's responsible for managing the insurance premium taxes that these credits are allowed to go to. I believe that's the gist of the bill, the changes that were made with this subcommittee's input, and I believe this is a step we can take for children that we can all look at. We like to do return on investment. This is going to be one where it can probably be measured if you look at the likelihood of coming in a gang or ending up with health conditions that are problematic, early pregnancy, whatever it might be. We think this program will pay dividends by allowing these individuals to have mentors that can make a tremendous difference in their life at a time that's when they're so vulnerable. So I do appreciate the committee considering this, and I hope that you all will see it favorably.
Members of committee, and Helen, why don't you go ahead and come on up to the front while we're asking questions. Any member have a question? Number 19. Yes, sir, Doc.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, this is actually the first time I've seen this. I think I'm on the subcommittee. I'm pretty sure that I am. I don't want to ask questions and vote if I'm not, but I'm pretty sure I'm on. But so I'm not clear about who gets the tax credit. And the other thing is 25 seems to raise that age to 25 seems 25 is not a child by any stretch of the imagination.
We do have somebody, if the chairman, if you don't mind, we do have a former DFACS director who's both familiar from his government time. Chairman Stevens, do you mind if Tom Rawlings, the former chair of DFACS, their director of DFACS, speaks to the explains that the difference in 21 and 25?
Tom, you have the.
Sorry, Chairman Parsons. So you're right, 25 is not a child, but I think what we're dealing with here are youth who, because they've been traumatized in foster care, need help making that adjustment to adulthood a little longer. Remember that the tax credit is going to families like you and me who are donating this money to an organization such as, I'll just use one for an example, Connections Homes. Connections Homes provides mentors to these young people, and they do need this, beyond 21. 25 is sort of a nationally recognized date that, while my 24-year-old is actually out in the world doing well, if you've been through the foster care system and you probably need a little extra time to get the assistance that you need.
This just applies for children, if you want to say that, who have been in foster care. Is that correct? Have been in custody of the states?
Yes, sir. These are all children who not only have they been in foster care, but these are the ones who we have identified as the most needy in terms of making that transition from foster care to adulthood. So for example, if you were in foster care at age 3 and 4 and maybe were adopted or returned home, that's one thing. If you've been in foster care at age 14, 15, 16, you probably have experienced a great deal of trauma. You probably need a lot of help in bridging that gap to adulthood.
Okay, well, I appreciate the answer. It still seems to me like 25 is very old, and there's a lot of young people out there who are not in foster care, whose lives have been traumatized just as much in some way or another. And I mean, they're not getting any tutoring or any of those things. It just seems like 25 is, to me, it seems like it's an awfully old age. I mean, somebody could be in the military and out and be on their way to retirement by 25 years old. And it just doesn't seem right. I'm not objecting to the bill or anything like that, but I'm just making a statement. I think that 25 is too old. It's almost like you're mollycoddling these guys, these kids at that age. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're not straightened out by 25, I don't think they're going to get straightened out myself.
Yes. Well, I appreciate the observation. I just also recognize that having worked in this field for a long time, you do have 23 and 24-year-olds who are making great progress, but they were set back several years by their foster care experience. But thank you.
Representative Camp, did you have your light on?
Thank you. I was just going to make the comment that oftentimes, I know just from talking to our technical schools, we have individuals who might not find their way until they're in their very early 20s before they go into a technical program. So this would assist them as well, correct? They were part of the juvenile justice. All right, thank you.
Anyone else for Tom? Any other questions? Then Helen Sloat.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Helen Sloat, and I'm a policy advisor at Nelson Mullins, and I have the pleasure of representing Together Georgia, and that's why I'm here today. So first, I'd like to say thank you to Chairman Newton. We appreciate him sitting down and meeting with us and talking through some of the ideas that we had around his bill. We think it's a good bill. We like the intent behind it. We only just received this substitute, so I would like to say we'd like to take a closer look at it and come back to Chairman Newton if we have any additional concerns. But I think his substitute appears to address some of the things that we raised and brought to his attention. I will say that there are now, as I understand it, 39 entities that are now able to be signed up and take advantage of this. money that's coming in. So we greatly appreciate it. I think that's why it took a while for folks to get to learn about the program, and therefore they didn't know that this was out there, and that may be why they didn't reach the cap, but we think that that's going to happen soon. So thank you very much.
Anyone else on the measure? I'm going to suggest that Helen and Representative Parsons, if y'all would meet with the author and see if we might have a conversation on the age and your issues as well, that might not be in the bill before we move this thing forward, if that's okay. But I would suggest you meet before tomorrow morning.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I think I'll
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going on now to House Bill 1116. Representative Buckner. Yes, come on up if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll be working off a substitute that's a little bit longer than the one you saw a couple of days ago. It's LC 500755S. This is the historic tax credits bill, and it's a combination of the bill that that Chairman Stevens had and that I had. And if you'll don't mind, I know we've already heard part of it, but if I could just walk through it and I can tell you what we're doing with the larger bill. Basically what this will do is extend the residential program on page 4 on lines 89 to 90. It's going to extend the residential program, and it will cap it at its current $5 million level. So the level does not change. And on that same page, on lines 91 to 93, we will raise the annual cap for commercial projects to $60 million. It was 30 and it will get raised to 60. Also on page 4 on line, I'm sorry, this is out of order, but on page 4, line 75 to 81, you will see the per project caps for commercial to go from 7.5 to 15 million. Then on page 5 on line 94, up at the top of the page, you'll see that the tax credits there, all of the tax credits for commercial and residential are being realigned and renewed so that they will all expire at the same time in the future. And then on page 2, sorry, this, like I say, I'm sorry, it's out of order. There is a change that the Georgia Historic Trust has suggested that under the residential program that we allow buildings that are eligible but may not be totally through the certification process to be able to begin the process of renovation and seeking the tax credit. And that's lines 26 through 34. And other than that, it's just a renewal bill. If you have any questions, there are some people here that work with these on a regular basis that can answer your questions, and I'll try to answer any questions that you might have. this is an opportunity for us to save some older buildings to make them into workforce housing and to reclaim some neighborhoods that may have become somewhat run down. And I think it's a good way for us to help with the housing crisis that we have and fix that in two different ways with commercial and residential.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We do have some who've signed up, one who's signed to speak to this, but before that, are there any questions for the author by committee members?
Well, before that, I should have done this in the beginning, but I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to work with Representative Stevens and for him to allow this to move forward together.
Thank you, ma'am. Lee Hughes, you're signed up to speak to House Bill 1116. Come on up, introduce yourself to those who don't know you. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Lee Hughes. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. I'm here today representing the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation and some others who have taken advantage of this program over the years. I think a little bit of background is probably appropriate. This program was first established in 2008 with some very small numbers associated with it. And in 2015, believe it or not, it's been about 10 years since that next effort to make this a more robust program. So that's part of the justification behind the move to raise some of these per project caps. Frankly, $1 million doesn't go as far as it did 10 years ago. It's been a very successful program, both in urban areas and rural areas. The impetus for the bill this year is that the residential program is due to expire. And there was a study done by Dr. Greg George from Middle Georgia State University who came to the previous meeting of the subcommittee, and he testified that he had found much more evidence than he expected, but substantial evidence that there's a good return on investment on the residential program. On the commercial program, the most recent study that I can cite was a Georgia Tech study that showed a 3.5 to 1 return on investment for commercial projects. You know, on a more simple basis or anecdotal basis, you're taking a lot of times properties that are blighted properties and that are not contributing to the tax rolls, and you're refurbishing them and restoring them, rehabbing them, to use the terminology in the tax credit program itself. And you're making those contributing members of our community through tax generation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope you guys will pass the bill.
thank you. Are there any questions from the subcommittee members? Sure. What number? Push your button there. Just
It says 88, but I'm looking up there. We don't have 88. Okay. Mr. Hughes, I don't know if you know this or to the author, you mentioned properties that were in need of rehab. That if you avail yourself of this income tax credit, you can also avail yourself of like being in a TAD, a redevelopment tax allocation district, can you as well?
Yes, you can.
You can do both.
Yes. I don't think there's anything in the law. You might want to double check me with leg counsel, but there's nothing in the law that precludes you making yourself available to both programs.
Okay.
thank you, sir. Looks like there's no other questions at this time. Is there thank you, sir. If there are not any other questions, this is a second hearing. I think I hear a motion to pass.
Second.
And a second. Is there any further discussion from the subcommittee? If not, all in favor of the passage of House Bill 1116 LC 500756S, say aye. Any opposed? No. And the bill passes on to full committee. I think we're done with the subcommittee. We adjourn.
another 2 minutes, please. We're going to come back to order. We have a solution so that we can get this bill onto full committee tomorrow. So, Chairman Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was a valid point that was brought up during subcommittee about the limited number of individuals that are in that above 21 age range. But because of that, and because that is going to be a question others will have, a very valid question, I would like to amend the bill with the chairman's permission and is Ledge Council here?
We can do that.
Say, we'll have to, it would be to leave out in two areas, line 22, where you see the line through age 21 on line 22. Just leave out the or age 25 if legally possible. And then also on line 51, where it also says, or between the ages of 18 and 25, if legally possible. So that's the effort of the amendment. So it's two amendments to the bill to eliminate anyone over the age of 21.
Do pass.
We have a do pass recommendation as amended by this committee. Do I have a second? We have a second. All those in
Now do we
favor?
vote on the amendment?
First thing we need to do is vote on the amendment. Actually, we're gonna vote on it as amended with a substitute.
Thank you.
So we're going to we have a do pass as amended as a subcommittee substitute to the full committee. We have a do pass and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's on to the full committee. Now we are adjourned.
As amended. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. That's